Good afternoon and welcome to the Preservation Association of Lincoln Brown Bag Lecture Series. My name is Eileen Burke and I'm the coordinator of these brown bags. Our lecture today is sponsored by the Preservation Association of Lincoln. If you're interested in these programs, please join our membership. You can go to preservelincoln.org. Our speaker today is Jon Roth. Jon has a Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Design from Kansas City Art Institute. He currently is the art director and graphic designer at Speedway Motors. He has worked at numerous advertising agencies throughout the Midwest and was also an instructor at Nebraska Wesleyan University. He has also co-authored 3 books on Lincoln history, Lincoln Looks Back, When I Was a Kid, and Game Day Memories. Please join me in Jon's talk today is titled New Images from the Edholm and Blomgren Collection. Please join me in welcoming Jon.
Thank you, Eileen. It's always nice to get invited here. It makes me feel very special to be among you folks because I know how much you appreciate preservation work. On that note, I just wanted to do a quick little reminder to someone. We had some sad news this past year. The gentleman that's pretty much solely responsible for preserving this collection, Dick Rumbles, and his wife Marion passed away within a month of each other. We hope they're in a good place, and I hope they're with their Savior, and I hope they save me a place at the table because Dick did a wonderful job preserving this, and we owe him all the credit in the world for doing it. Also, Bob Ammon for providing the storage, and just a quick thanks to the Nielsen family and Nico Security. They're providing storage to me free of charge now for the collection, so these 10,000 negatives are in a great place and they're secure, and I sleep much better at night knowing that. So this today will be the culmination of a winter of culling about 500 images out of 10,000 and then deciding on about 140 to 150 of them for today's show. So it's a very eclectic mix. And I wanted to give you an idea of how diverse Edholm and Blomgren are in terms of photographers. They were across the street from the Star on 12th Street on the back side of the block that housed the Cornhusker Hotel. So you can just imagine for the society page, etc., they were always being called on as freelance photographers for the paper to shoot photos. So let's start with some of that. This is for Ben Simons. 1947 is the year this was shot. These go way back, and that marks the banner year for Edholm and Blomgren as a photography group. So they were hired out to do some fashion models here. I love to look at the styles. I love the pattern and the drapes and the floor lamp, and the lady's hat, of course, echoes the style. This is lovely. To me, this is years ahead of its time in terms of the design that's behind the lady, the mirrors, the mirrored panel in the bookcase, and the lamp on the table. But just a beautiful, beautiful ensemble she's wearing. And of course, we had to cover teenagers and record collections, and perhaps Schaefer's or someone like that was selling Capehart stereos at the time and doing a little promotion, or perhaps one of the downtown department stores had this in their collection. I thought this was lovely. I don't know which hospital this is. For a lot of these, the sad part is there's no provenance to tell me where the shot was taken, but notice the open sash window behind the lady in her room. Those days have kind of come and gone, but what an adorable shot. Not my intent to invade anybody's privacy here. I know these were taken years ago, but I think this is a beautiful shot, and I had to share it with you. Lovely, lovely shots, which may have been portraits, may have been shots again for commercial use for Ben Simons or McGee's or Goals or whatever the case may be. But I have a feeling this was just maybe a family portrait that Edholm was hired to do. Another little girl doing her homework, something we all we're known to do. You can see the title of the book is called Bop It. I'd love to know what that's about. I haven't read that particular book, but it looks like it's fun. I also love the fact that everybody was into plaid back in the 50s, and certainly clearly evident from this photograph. This is a little dolly. I'm sure this was probably for a child's fashion photograph, but just very adorable. Hairstyle, the gingham dress, everything about it is just absolutely adorable. And this is for McGee's. If you look in the left-hand corner of the frame, of course, she's putting a McGee's hat box into the back of her TR-250 or TR-2A. Of course, Dad's just buttoning the hood down, making sure that the car is roadworthy for her trip. And I think little one's either giving Daddy a kiss at Christmas time, or she's whispering to him what she wants Santa to bring her. Lovely shot. Well, I love family shots, and of course this one's adorable. This would have made a great Christmas card for anybody. Kid in the back's either pulling his britches up or demonstrating some prowess in terms of who's in charge here. Even the dog is in on the act. Well, another fond memory of childhood, who went to Goals and talked to Santa Claus? Of course, that was an absolute must at Christmas time. And check out the directive that Santa Claus is issuing to the one little guy, certainly letting him know he better be saying his prayers at night if he wants what he's asking for from Santa Claus. The other one is listening intently. And that was a long line, by the way. You had to have a lot of patience, and you had to wear your heavy coat with your idiot mittens and the whole ensemble, and it got pretty warm in there, but it was worth the wait. And of course, there were other venues where Santa showed up, maybe your local bank, or maybe an Elks party, or maybe you went to a party where Santa came to a home. But certainly, that was a childhood treat. By the way, if you have anything to add to any of these, by all means, shout out, raise your hand, just give me a chance to answer you, and we'll certainly add anything you have to say about the photographs.
Are there dates on any of these?
No provenance in terms of dates, but I'm going to guess this is probably the late 1950s. I'll bet we can go and check Gold's records and find that serial number right there, and we'll have an exact answer for you, Kay. 11387. I have no idea why this picture was taken. Again, I think probably just a family picture, but what a brood, eh? Beautiful shot. And again, this probably transcends the 50s, goes back a little bit more into the late 1940s even, in terms of when it was taken. But those Speed Graphics and Crown Graphics did a wonderful job with detail and continuous tone. You just cannot beat a 4x5 negative from a view camera, especially when it's shot outdoors like this. I just love the tonality of photos like this. Notice there's just one little guy surrounded by a sea of women there. So you want to hope those aren't all sisters, or he's in big trouble. Another lovely shot. I seem to recall Dad building a barbecue pit on this order. Did anybody have one of these in your backyard? Ours was built out of bricks, but this looks like it's built out of river bedrock or river stone. Very nice little grill. And of course, I'm sure a collie would have been a really popular dog to own in the late 1950s. I have no idea. probably some kind of a promotion for a store. But I just love this by virtue of the woodwork on the balustrade coming down the stairs, the grandfather clock, the upright piano or organ. It's probably an organ. And check out this Dalmatian. I mean, what a great setup. Also noticing the curtains to the drawing room. Remember when a home had a drawing room? Well, we got to fast forward a little bit here. This is the atomic kitchen as near as I can tell. I didn't have a TV set in my kitchen when I was a kid. This kid's pretty lucky. Looks like they've got the latest setup. She's got the range, the in-counter range. She's got the double oven. Got it all going on. Love the lighting. Can't find a fixture like that anymore. Maybe at QP on 48th Street, right, Bob?
Could be. Looks like African ribbon striped mahogany. That was real popular in the early to mid-50s.
Mahogany, walnut, pecan, avocado, and Harvest Gold appliances. Yeah.
Pink and turquoise.
Oh, I forgot about those. Yeah, I forgot about turquoise. Good call. And I just had to throw this in as sort of the dichotomy of the atomic kitchen. Take a look around this kitchen and look at all of these modern devices. Number one, the stove is on feet, high in the air. Look at the flue. It's chained to the flue to open and close the damper on the chimney. Must have been a terribly cold room in the wintertime. Tile floor. There's no trap on the sink. The pipe goes straight down through the floor. Again, the sink's mounted on pedestals. We did have a cast iron sink like this in our prairie box, so I know they were pretty common in that day and age. The old cream separator. Guess who makes this cream separator? Your local international harvester dealer. So they did make more than trucks and tractors. Quite the process, wouldn't you say? Bulldogging. Trying to get that cow to market, that steer to market. We don't know which direction we're going here. I think we're getting on to go to market. We might be going to the state fair. But you can certainly see that it takes a lot of work from the guys and not much cooperation from the steer to get on the boxcar. Okay, again, I had to take you from covered wagons to Star Wars overnight here. Now we're in the lobby of the Cornhusker Hotel. And of course, A.Q. Schimmel was way into judging state fair beef, as was Nathan Gold. And that's James Rodney, his food and beverage manager, standing next to him. I love A.Q. Schimmel's shoes, by the way. The two-tone. And what is that, shark skin that he's wearing as far as a suit? Lovely. 30th year of the state fair, or at least the competition for the 4-H steer. So this is the 1960 Nebraska State Fair. And here is A.Q. Schimmel in his office. You're an important man if you have one Ercaphone on your desk. If you have two, you're a very important man, right? Look at the glasses. Now that's bottle glass, right? We'll have to assume AQ had a very strong prescription in those glasses. Love this one, the classic Norman Rockwell physician at the roll-top desk writing out a prescription. You see it in paintings, you don't see it very often in photographs. It's wonderful. Mr. Koppel's insurance agency. I love this scenic that he has over on the wall. The only place that I can think of that would top this in terms of a scenic would be the car dealership that was at 14th and Q Street. I'm trying to remember what the name of the dealership was. It escapes me, but they had the history of, what is it? I don't think it's Pontiac. It was a Buick dealer, yeah, but it was Mowbray. And they had a depiction of the history of the United States from the time Columbus landed all the way up to the present, wrapping around the entire showroom. And then they had a goldfish fountain in the center of the place. I mean, it was a pretty cool place. But yeah, Newt's done a pretty good job of putting a scenic up there on the wall to sort of break up the monotony of.
I think that's Ed.
Who is that?
That's Ed, maybe.
It's Ed Koppel? Okay, very good. Harry Reid Sporting Goods. Hasn't been around in a while. They were on P Street across from the Stewart Building, right in the neighborhood of where Kep Harding's was for so many years. Probably either one side or the other where you'd probably see the coffee shop now, somewhere in there. I know that by virtue of the address I looked up, it's an odd number. So either they're on the Stewart side or they're over on the other side of P Street.
Stewart side.
That's the Stewart side? I have no idea once again, but I had to put it in just because I did this as a kid in grade school, but I never saw adults doing it in any kind of a stage play at the Stewart. Of course, different time and place. Red Cross was sponsoring an auto care seminar for ladies here. We're being shown how to change a tire. Everyone seems to be pretty interested except the gal on the far right. She already knows how to do it, so she's not being very attentive. Interesting how many different services the Red Cross provided. Anybody remember S&H green stamps? This lady has just won herself a 1963 Chevrolet station wagon, and I would have to say that's a whole lot of green stamps there. I don't know who licked all those stamps and put them in those books, but that's a lot of green stamps. By the way, this is N Street. You can see the sign up on the marquee over on the right. That's N Street Drive-In. So we're right around 18th and N Street. We're on the north side of the street. Vault Gall Body Shop? Yeah. Now we're up in the tower at First Plymouth. I found these the other day. And the bell has a marking of 1930 on it. That sort of helps us indicate the time when is it the Carillon Tower went up? Yeah. And this gentleman is the organist. He may play another role too, but these were a beautiful find. You always saw it from the outside and you said how beautiful it is. Look at the lovely light coming in the gridwork when you're on the inside of the bell tower. And look at how well the bell tower is made. When I see the St. Thomas Church going up over on, Q Street now, and I see the I-beam work, just think of how much effort was put into this so many years ago. And there's the bell tower board. I do remember walking up the spiral staircase and watching the guy play the bells, and it's a series of rods, and he's striking them with his hand. These rods come out, and they're attached to cords that go up to the bells. And it's amazing how proficient someone can get at playing tunes. Notice the architectural rendering of the tower itself up on the side of the striking machine. Now we're over on South 27th Street. Does this look familiar?
Yeah, Paulie.
Those of you that spent a few years buying your lumber at Pauly Lumber, this is Al's Barber Shop. I love the little cove doorway for the truck here next door. This architecture survived for so many years in this capacity. It's hard to believe it's gone, and what do we have, a Westlake hardware store there now? But you've got a doctor's office here, you have Al's Barber Shop. You have Al and his partner here. We have a photograph of them. I believe that's Al on the right. And a little tighter view. And just an art class, an informal art class, grade school, junior high, high school. This looks like grades 9 and 10 are being judged and in a studio setting. Remember those lovely easels they provided you with that you could, from the time you were in kindergarten forward, whether you were doing finger painting or you were painting with tempera, they always had these wonderful little easels built for you. Okay, I'm going to venture out. This segment now will move into more of a landscape setting, and of course we're out on West O here. And I believe in this one we're looking back towards Lincoln. Auto Ranch was just as you came over the viaduct. We are shy of Surplus Center here, but we're a ways out on West O here. I think that's Lincoln Steel over on the right. And indeed it is. And if I'm not mistaken, Smith Family has that right now, and that's available if you need a large plant like that. That's what a wonderful setting that is, though. I'm glad to see it still there. I hope someone can find a viable use for this. This and Northwestern over on 10th Street, I just love that they're still around. Looking the other way, we're headed west here. You can see Burlington still, their communication and water tower is still there. But so much more development there now than was evident in this photograph. About the same general area. Just remember the little cafe as you came right off of the viaduct, and then the little Skelly station was there. And so this has to be reasonably close to Sun Valley, I would think. We're in the area where Sun Valley is. Okay, now we're back up near the entrance to Capitol Beach. Of course, the Quonsets are still there for I believe Thriftway stores at the time. Don't look at those gas prices up on that marquee. 30 cents a gallon for gas is long gone. If we back up just a little bit, one of my favorites as a kid was the old Capitol Motel that was still in existence right as you came out the entrance to Capitol Beach. And if we would go on vacation, we'd go to Salt Lake City to see my aunt. I always knew when that green neon of that Capitol Hotel sign meant that I wasn't far away from sleeping in my own bed that evening. That's always a good feeling when you get back to your hometown. And we're back looking the other way now. There's a beautiful little Conoco station over there next to the motel. And we are near the entrance, what became Capitol Beach Boulevard, going into Capitol Beach. I'll go in a little tighter on this, and we'll take a look at some of the businesses. Does anybody remember the Daisy Queen? It's not a Dairy Queen, it's a Daisy Queen. And this is the entrance to Capitol Beach. There's a billboard right there pointing the way in. So, and I'm not sure if I don't think the Daisy Queen is Steve's. Steve's with another restaurant set further back, I believe, off the highway or off the road. And there's just kind of a panoramic that gives you a good idea of what the area looked like. But yeah, that's the turnoff going into Capitol Beach. Well, these guys helped put me through college. I worked at Dean Brothers as a car detailer, and remember when you could actually go to a 25-cent car wash and pay 25 cents to get your car washed? Truly an amazing thing. Very Spartan, not much to them. So we know that we're looking at a fairly recent build and that we've got fresh sod, and next door we don't have anything poured yet. But I know these had to have been taken down because when Dean Brothers and Guy Deans moved into the 1800 block of Westo, of course, all of that became a tarmac for their parking lot. Now we're back down a ways on the road. OK Tires, probably some connection to T.O. Haas.
It was T.O. Haas.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Anybody? I thought I heard a question.
I can guarantee you that's T.O. Haas.
Okay, very good. Yeah, and T.O. Haas, I remember every year set up a huge tent out at the state fairgrounds too. The OK Tire guy was a big mascot for him back then. Notice they still had B.F. Goodrich, the B.F. Goodrich brand then. Boy, I hope nothing ever happens to that wonderful B.F. Goodrich sign on O Street. That's my last memory of the Great White Way heading down the hill from 24th Street
That's the
there.
corporate office.
Yeah.
24th Mall.
And is there some connection, Bob, to Old Fathers? Was there a merge there between Old Fathers and T.O. Haas?
Bought out.
Yeah. Well, the platform, this is the original viaduct going over the tracks in the Haymarket. No, this is actually downtown. Griswold Seed, you can see their
Oh, I see.
seat sticking up, and this was Morel Meats Plant. And it's really funny, I'm looking at all these baggage carts lined up, and they moved 710 when they did the most recent restoration on the Haymarket, and I can tell you that some of those baggage carts you see there were leaning against 710 still, just up to a couple of years ago. But this was the platform going out to the passenger trains back in the this looks like it still might be the 40s, the late 1940s.
What direction are you looking here? South?
You're looking south, I believe, because that's the Harris Overpass. That's what would become the Harris Overpass going over the top of the tracks. And Griswold Seed is over what, at about Ann and 8th Street, somewhere in there.
The
So,
building in the view there's the one that's been sort of in the news, where they were
Crawdaddy.
talking about replacing it or not, or where the Crawdaddy's restaurant was.
mm-hmm.
That stone pylon that supports the bridge, those stones were taken down and lined the Lake Street Lake. That's the bridge.
How about that? That's an interesting, I have to make sure that people heard that. Mr. Ripley was pointing out that the pylons that are supporting the original viaduct going over the rail yard, that the stone was then repurposed for the Lake Street Lake, the retaining wall in the Lake Street Lake. Boy, did we have fun there when we were kids. Does anybody remember the tunnel that went all the way out to the Humane Society? There was actually an aqueduct that they would open the locks to drain the lake in the summer times or in the winter time, whatever, so that kids wouldn't fall in there. We used to go in there and catch bats in coffee cans. It was the longest run. You could almost stand up when you went in, But by the time you got like 3 or 4 blocks out past 9th Street or 8th Street, then you had to almost crawl to get through it. But you could come out on the other end out at the Humane Society out on Park Boulevard by Pioneer Park, which was, to me, an amazing thing. Yeah, I miss the skating at Lake Street, and I miss the water being there in the summertime. That was a wonderful place. Thanks, Bob. That's a great to know, by the way. We are at approximately, 19th, 18th and O Street here. I think that's the old railroad hotel there we're looking at. So we're probably right across from the railroad depot. We're just a little bit to the west of that.
Is that Ben Street Auto Parts, maybe?
Ben's would have been on the other side of the street. This is the old, what they referred to as Ma Kelly's. It was the old railroad hotel for the railroad guys. It stayed up there for many years. What's that? This is the south side of O Street, it is. So we're looking, yeah, it's got to be somewhere right around 20th, I would say.
Those tall buildings are just east of the Rock Island line.
Right, so your break, that is 20th Street at the depot, is it not? So I would say we're right around between 20th and 21st Street here. Nice 1940s era Jeep station wagon, by the way. Had a shot to buy one of those for about $200-300 at a swap meet a couple of years back, and I really regret not buying that. I love the moniker for country club beer. Have you ever heard any beer referred to as the Bright Beer? Actually, trying to think of where Road and Track is. Road and Track would have been right in there somewhere.
Just left of.
Yeah. I love this building. I love the architecture on this building. Scott Electronics, look at the symmetry of this building. And I'm trying, Bob, do you have any idea when this might have been built? 1920s, 1930s?
20s or 30s.
Isn't it beautiful? Look at the little mission pattern in the brick up on top, but I just love it. Flagpole, dead center. Nice little ice cream joint just over to the east, too. This is right around the 23rd, 22nd, 23rd, I think 22 something, 2245. It probably would be about where the thrift store is now.
Garage doors removed.
Okay, this was a wonderful find. As long as we're at 23rd and O Street, we have to talk about something that's no longer there. And do you see what this plaque says? Antelope Park, 1916, dedicated in 1916. I'll just read this off to you. The 4 sandstone columns in this park entrance were quarried in Virginia and used in the construction of the Federal Treasury Building at Washington, D.C., on a site selected by President Jackson in 1836. Between these columns, President Lincoln stood to review the troops during the Civil War when in 1907 the Treasury Building was remodeled, and these drum columns were later purchased by Cotter T. Bride of Washington, D.C., and in 1916 presented to the city of Lincoln. This is one of those mysteries. I don't know what you guys have in your archives as far as the columns, but I was just so tickled to find this for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a beautiful shot. Number two, it's shot from the front door of one of Lincoln's hallmark restaurants throughout the 60s and 70s, and we'll get there in a minute. But yeah, 23rd Street, almost dead center, walking between the columns. You just saw the column marker. Look at the beautiful trees, how lovely it was landscaped. What happened?
Why did they tear that?
Yeah, why would you get rid of this?
It was
Grocery
sold,
store.
it was sold
Why?
by the city to
Safe way.
generate money to buy a portion of Holmes Park.
And the columns.
The columns are, what's left of the columns are at a Pioneer.
At Pioneer Park. Seen several nieces and nephews married there. So in case you didn't hear that, what happened to these columns afterward was they were taken out to Pinehurst Park and reconstructed. So you can see here from this work order, I love Providence, so I had to scan this too, that it is the Spanish-American War vets that ordered this photography, and certainly they knew that these were going away, so they wanted it documented. But notice, you capital guys, what floor is listed as the address of the Spanish-American Vets Association. Second line down, 5th floor of the Capitol building. I love the reference to the fact that if you take the photograph, we want to be able to read what the raised letters are saying on the plaque, and of course I just proved you can do that. So now we're spinning around and we're looking the other direction. If I'm standing on the other side of the street in front of the columns, I'm looking at this old Liming's Furniture building. Now, does anybody know what Hallmark restaurant I was talking about? Nielsen's Cafe. Nick Nielsen, who, by the way, started in this little building right here to the left, but eventually moved in and took over this building. And of course, that's the days of the giant cinnamon roll, the cinnamon roll as big as your head, and the breakfast that you couldn't end it. Yeah, the home fries. All, yeah. Oh, they were wonderful. And this man knew how to bake. I'm sure there are a lot of street workers and rail yard workers and blue collar types that can tell you how good Nick's food was. We're over a little to the north on R Street at around 19th Street. If you didn't get to see Earl Carter lumber in this incarnation, you missed out. You can't see it here in this particular shot, but as we round the corner here to the east, you're going to see some wonderful neon letters here that formed the name of their business. And I think that's what I missed the most of all. Not just, I mean, going to the lumber yard, of course, in and of itself was a wonderful thing. Johnson Cashway was on the other side of the tracks, same street. But see how each letter is outlined, and these were neon, and what a beautiful glow at twilight. I really miss this place. Was there many, many years. A little longer view. Notice all the cobblestone is still out there.
So this is our street, correct?
This is our street, yep. 19th would have been the cross street. You saw the tracks there, so we know that those begin at 20th up the street near O Street, and then they sort of work their way at a diagonal back towards 19th Street. And another view, Eno Meats was here at one time. You know that building was taken over by Suzanne Blue and did a wonderful job of running Matt Talbot out of that building for so many years. There's even a Corvair back there. I wonder if it moves under its own power. Up at 33rd and O Street. What a lovely little gas station this was, a little Texaco station. And of course, this was raised to make room for Best Communications, I believe it was, for many, many years. Now Best Communications is gone, and what do we have there? We have Starbucks. And I had my daughter, or someone was in the car with me the other day, and they said, "Dad, why did they put that gigantic flagpole there? Why would you need a flagpole that large?" And I had to tell her that was the communications tower that they just sort of left in place, that was left over by Best Communications. People just don't realize before cell phones, et cetera, how popular CB radios and two-way communication systems were in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. That was the thing to have in your vehicle if you wanted to communicate with someone else. Love the old mailbox out at the corner. I've got about 3 or 4 different views of this, I think. Of course, we're on our way to Wyuka here, but look at the encroachment of the residential property on O Street here. Just absolutely unheard of. And I love the way the photographers frame this up under the boughs of a tree across the street. Looking due north down 33rd Street, look at how Spartan 33rd Street is and how narrow it is. When you drive it today, you'd never dream it was this narrow.
Well, right now it's under construction.
It certainly is, and there are barricades on both sides of the street, aren't there, Kay? You're absolutely right. Standard Station's still there. I think it sells cigarettes or something. And one last panoramic from the corner. Just love that the cobblestone's still there in every direction. Hasn't been covered over yet or removed. Okay, now we're a little further to the east and we're at the entrance to Wyuka, and it looks like LPD was saying goodbye to one of their own here. There's a little procession with motorcycle police in the front. There's the hearse carrying the body, and then there are several police vehicles falling in behind. But boy, look at all the fir and spruce, and just, this is like Pioneer Park too. I mean, it's beautiful now, but if you'd seen it 30 or 40 years ago, your heart would have stopped. It was so gorgeous. And of course, Wyuka was no exception. And then look at the median. The trees, obviously with progress, have no shot at surviving in the median. But what a beautiful tree line section that must have been leaving Lincoln.
Actually, that's the south side of O.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It certainly is. That's not a median. That is the south side of O. But it is no more, because what is it now? 6 lanes across with the turning lanes?
When was the first widening of O Street? When it went to 4?
Does anybody know when the first widening of O Street was?
I was in high school, because we had to crawl across through the construction to get to Cool Crest. So 1960, 61.
There you go.
So everybody could get to the new Gateway Mall?
Oh, I have. It's funny you would mention that. Okay, we're going to be going there in a minute. Now, again, I wish I had more provenance on this. The provenance that I do have is going to come up here in a moment. But yeah, 2 lanes, cobblestone, how romantic. Be nice if it was still around. We know that the officer's badge number was 60. That's all the provenance we have. And I think I did ask Joyce Sitta to do a little investigative work on this, and perhaps she'll get back to me on it. This building has been so many different things. I've lost track over the course of time. Seeing it in this state brings back so many memories, because this was a stop on the way to Gateway, on the way back from Gateway, what have you. Demas was at the corner of 48th, so when this came to town, it had to really ruffle a lot of feathers. It was the epitome of a supermarket, and it is a huge store, even by today's standards. It's been Food for Less, a PetSmart, Best Buy, King's Food Host. What have I forgotten? When it was a King's Food Host, I always looked at this sign, and I'm not talking about the part of the building with the S on it, the Safeway logo. I'm talking about the part up above that houses the Safeway sign, and it's still there, by the way. All plywood construction, 2x4 construction. When my friends Rod Markin and Jim Litchie both worked at King's Food Host, we took a little trip up there one night. It was a beautiful place to view traffic on O Street. That's where they'd keep all the sweetheart cups and the straws and the napkins. It was a storage area for them. So somebody was thinking about every square inch of, you know, if you need storage for something, this is the place. I love the old orange, remember the orange telephone booth with the blue telephone letters on the marquee? You notice across the street, you can see Ken Eddy's. That hill's still there, no grade work has been done. You absolutely are cresting a rise there as you go to 48th Street.
You know, I think that Oak Street was widened before 1960. I think what I'm talking about is the widening of the intersection. Because look, that's got 4 lanes in it.
It sure does.
1960 or 58 or something.
Well, I
like
think the
that.
newest, I see teardrop taillights on a 59 Chevrolet, and that's the newest vehicle I can spot in the shot.
On the left is 59 Ford station wagon, the one in the street.
So I would say 59, we're probably all in agreement, this is the end of the decade. Remember that wonderful Ken Eddy sign that was the sunflowers? And it had running lights that went up, and the flowers literally grew with the bulbs. They chattered and grew the leaves, and then when the sunflower itself was built, strobes went off. There were 3 strobes in each sunflower.
For about 6 months.
Yeah, and then somebody said, hey, I had a wreck at 48th and O because the strobe went off in my eyes when I wasn't expecting it. I also understand that this was the site, although albeit further back, of the original Hawthorne School. I have photos that someone gave me from the turn of the century, and back beyond this excavated point, there is a school labeled Hawthorne, and it did not sit on the site that Hawthorne School sits on now, on the other side of 48th Street. What's missing?
Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut, that's right. And we know that came in the early 60s because the only other place that delivered pizza, as near as I can recall, was Chicken Delight. And maybe you had Perky's Pizza Palace downtown, but certainly the first franchise pizza joint to come to town built on this site.
Hong Kong Pizza King.
Hong Kong Pizza King was another one, although that came after the Tasty Inn, so we know that was later. Yeah, okay, very good. We are running out of time, so I'm going to go through these quickly. Boy, this hour went fast. I'm just going to let these run, as a matter of fact. These are all Gateway. And I believe, what, this was 61 when Gateway was built? Now, that's an outdoor mall, right? It was a big deal. Certainly a big deal for the city.
The mall was designed by San Francisco landscape architect Lawrence Halprin, who also ultimately did the FDR Memorial in Washington, D.C.
Wow, prominent architect. Remember the descending stairs to the little trumpet-shaped fountain? Moon's Liquor, they had a liquor store on the mall.
Robert Hall.
Going down the hill across the street, Robert Hall. Look who's at the ribbon cutting to Robert Hall here. Our old friend A.Q. Schimmel again. He's standing in the crowd back there. Had to throw a couple of these in, just your average hardware store, toy store. We got a couple more minutes? Am I running completely out, or?
It's okay.
Okay, we good? 56th, you're looking at 56th and R in 1963. That's impressive. Meadow Lane Shopping Center, the Ben Franklin store. '84th and O, folks.
Yes. Distribution center.
Can you see the water tower for the Veterans Hospital? Vets Hospital over there to the right? We're at the intersection of 84th and O. This is my favorite Back to the Future shot here because this is the 84th and O drive-in at that time. Several shots of Cushman. That should bring a few tears to a few eyes right now. We've just lost that. Expo 67, I remember, was a big deal up in Canada. Look at all of the Cushmans being shipped up to Expo 67. Anybody recognize this? Look at the painting in the background. Tips you off. Do you know where this was? That is Gold's Cafeteria, and the county agent is prominently displayed for your viewing pleasure.
Do we know where that painting ended up?
The painting, as I've been told, might be housed at Sheldon right now. I am told there was a show just a couple of months ago where they had
It was at Kellogg's for a while.
Kellogg Center for many years, but I think now if you go relatively quickly, you might catch it at Sheldon. I think it might even be on display at this moment. Just a few more shots of the cafeteria here. Look at all the ovens. Little bookkeeping. And this negative's not backwards. We've got these backlit signs. We're on the back side of the partition, serving the public. Comes in through the alley, goes up to the cafeteria. This is the break room. Not sure what that table's all about. Some kind of card games going on. International Superstore.
North 48?
Yep. Now a dollar store and Risky's Bar, I believe. Again, we were talking about those woods earlier, Bob, walnut, pecan, mahogany. 30th and Y Street, 33rd and Y Street, that building still stands. Schaefer's for many years. Jet Boat Manufacturing, never heard of it. Landy Clark Lumberyard, which then became Highland Brothers, and then subsequently Mead Lumber. Kind of a rare shot of Sharp Building without a marquee going all the way around it. Shot of the Famous. Any ladies love the Famous for their dresses. And a shot under the awning of the Famous looking back across O Street. Harry's Shoe Store was over on 11th Street between N and O. And they were promoting Ked's Day where you'd win this bicycle out at Capitol Beach. Darling's was another ladies' dress shop downtown. Sky Park Manor going up. Notice there's no skin on it yet. Fred Astaire Dance Studio across from the Cornhusker on M Street. Okay, kind of an interesting little accident here at 29th and O. The point I wanted to make was, number one, be careful. That's what a motorcycle does to your car door. You don't want to be the guy riding the bike either. Doesn't look too bad here. Notice, vacant lot, no Village Inn yet, 1969. Helps you understand when Village Inn came into being. Black and white police cars. AAA still there. Now that's a remodeled Honda. I don't think I'd want to ride that one anymore, right?
A little shorter.
It's much shorter. Oh, and by the way, across the street, the spot of the original Yum Yum Hut. Villager Pancake House, of course, all that's been torn down now. And out at the State Fair, a Wells and Frost promotion. I remember the giant pair of pants as you went in the front entrance of the... That is the Turnpike Ballroom. That's the only shot I've ever gotten of the stage. So that's a nice, finally finding a picture of the Turnpike stage. That was out south on 14th.
in Sotil.
Pioneer Park, a nice color shot of a Sullivan's transfer truck. A state senator, an important state senator, with the number 1 on his license plate under the horseshoe drive, I believe, of the state capitol building. That would be on the
Maybe the governor's car.
K Street side. Kelso Chemical, again, 23rd and O Street. And these last 3 are of a nice little nativity scene. Lovely that churches used to do that. Anybody have any ideas of what church that might be? I don't know. And that's it. So, questions very quickly. Anybody? Anything you want to go back and look at?
Great job.
Well, thank you so much. I ran over. I'm sorry. I appreciate you coming out.